Hello, hello everybody, and welcome to this deep dive contemplation for Leo season. This is a slight pivot from what I have done in the past. This is the first one of these that I'm doing, but it will basically take what I've been doing as far as a full moon loom stream. That's been happening to me a lot lately. A full moon live stream and a new moon live stream, and it'll combine them into one for the entirety of the season. So in this case, Leo season. So I'm going to take us through kind of a bunch of Leo season contemplations. We will cover the Aquarius full moon, but we will also cover the Leo new moon happening later in the month. I do have some notes also for Venus retrograde. We'll see if we get to that. If you are just joining, please give the video a thumbs up. Please subscribe to the channel, leave a comment. All of that is pushing this out into the algorithm, and I greatly appreciate it. I think this is going to be a lot of fun. So I want to start with kind of an overview of Leo season, which is starting July 22nd or 23rd, depending on your location on the planet, and runs until August 23rd through the 24th. So that entire time, the sun will be in its home of Leo. So the sun rules Leo. It's perfectly matched with what Leo energy represents. It is the shining of our light, our divine self-expression out into the world. So the sun is the center of the universe, our universe anyway, our solar system anyway. The sun is the center. So the sun is the leader of the meeting within our solar system. So as the sun moves July 22nd, 23rd into Leo, the meeting, aka like the energetic gist of kind of where we focused for the next 30 days, that will be very Leo energy based. And that is the overarching for those entire 30 days as we move through that process. And first, we will have the full moon in Aquarius on August 1st at 9 degrees. And then we will have the new moon in Leo on August 16th at 23 degrees. So we're in the part of the lunar cycle where the full moon is coming first and then the new moon is coming second. And that is where this is a very natural progression to combine the two contemplations into one. And there will be timestamps. I'm going to try to keep it as structured as I can so that if you want to check back multiple times throughout the month and just listen to the part of where we are in the process, you sure can. But for today, my goal is to kind of at a high level talk through all of Leo season. So the first thing we're going to come to is this. I have questions. I have like all of these questions that want to be asked for Leo season. And I have some that feel more like the Aquarius full moon, and then some that feel more like the Leo new moon. But the first, let's see. Yeah, so the first question is, what do you want? What do you want? And potentially, how uncomfortable are you willing to be to make it happen? And that is kind of the overall gist of Leo season. Like, how vulnerable are you willing to be? How much of a risk are you willing to take in putting yourself out there to go after what it is that you really want to have? Leo is a fire sign, and our fire energy is extremely related to our ego. So, our sense of identity and our sense of asserting our will into the world, like having desires and moving in the direction of pursuing those desires, chasing our passions, so to speak, that is fire energy. And so, for the extent of Leo season, we have this cosmic force kind of backing us up, really encouraging us to express ourselves and lean into those fiery impulses and the creative sparks of what truly has life for us at this time. And more specifically, what is holding life for your inner child? That's one of the questions that's on here somewhere. What do you want to create for the fun and satisfaction of your inner child? And there's a reason that we're very specifically wanting to tap into the inner child. Leo is very related to our own childlike energy and children in general because they're really good at playfulness and the freedom and vulnerability that it takes to truly play with no abandon, like letting go of all inhibitions and just going in the direction of what feels fun to you, letting yourself have that. Kids are really good at it. And then, we have to grow up, quote unquote. We let the conditioning wash over us and we learn the rules and we learn that playing is something that children do. And eventually we leave behind our childish, foolish things and we pursue more appropriate grown-up tasks. We have to adult, etc. And this is a moment where during Leo season, more like towards the end of Leo season, within the last week or so, we have a trine, a helpful, positive, supportive aspect meaning like a conversation happening between two things in the sky. So the sun is going to be trining the north node in Aries. So the north node is officially into Aries, has been for a few days now. We're very much still in the first week of actually getting to live with this energy. By then, we'll be about a month into it, but that sun trining the north node for a few days, it'll be really intensely sending a lot of solar energy into that north node, both in fire signs, both wanting you and your identity, your desires, the core fire of who were you born to be? Why were you so intent on having a body, securing a life for yourself, coming forward and being a person? Why? Why was the reason for that? And fire energy knows the answer. That's the exciting thing, is like the reason we're tapping into your inner child is because it already knows the answer to these questions. The way your inner child wants to play is the answer to these questions. The things that feel like playing to you are the grand contribution that you came to make to society and humanity. Like if when you're playing music, you get floated away and you find your flow state and whatever, like then you're meant to deliver music to the world. Like it's effortless for you. That's your play. That's your, finding your creative flow. Then that's what you're supposed to do. For me, trying to play an instrument was never easy, never fun, never really called to me. I did practice a little bit here and there with some different things, and it just like was never a thing. Singing, on the other hand, I mean, I sing all day, every day because it's fun for me, not because I sound great. And that's why mostly I don't have other people listen, but like it feels good. And I, like there's a question that's coming through really loud and clear, which is, how does you singing in a room by yourself where nobody can even hear you, how is that some grand contribution to the world? And I think it's a valid question that clearly some part of my mind is asking, and so maybe yours is too. And I would say to us both that, often I like even just this morning, and often before I record, first I will sing. Like, so before I come on to live stream, like first I'll warm up my voice. I'll warm up my ability to feel my emotions in my body and to pull them up through my throat and to project them outward. Singing is beautiful for that. And nobody has to listen to me sing the playful part of just me loosening up myself and like finding my flow and finding my connection with my body. Nobody has to hear or see or experiencing that with me in order to then experience the effect of this video, the live stream itself, or whatever it is that I'm about to record, or whoever I'm going to talk to. They get to experience my energy being warmed up. So then when I do go to make my contribution, I'm in a completely different frequency. I'm already warm. I'm already like flowing. I'm already like connected to my intuition and ready to just send that into whatever's coming next. So taking time to carve out the space to play and to let yourself fall into a moment and find the flow of detaching from your adult self. Find that freedom of the inner child to just be, even if it's only 5 minutes. Like, it's huge, the effect that that can have on your energy as a whole. And then you take your whole energy into wherever you're going next, and everyone around you, just like the sun, the rays coming off of the sun. Leo season is really emphasizing the fact that, like, the energy that you're emanating, like the rays of the sun, it's landing on every single person you ever come into contact with. So whether you're emanating love or you're emanating tension and fear or anxiety or I'm not good enough, like whatever it is that has you in your head, all of it, every bit of whatever you are is emanating out into the world and is like permeating the beings of everyone that we ever come into contact with. That's why solitude is so powerful, to like have people's energy stop touching you for a little bit just so you can feel your own. Like, the mixture is happening all day, every day, as long as you're mixing energies. And Leo season I see as a beautiful opportunity to take a radical responsibility over your energy, and when needed, carve out the alone time, the solitude that you need to play in total freedom, to sing at the top of your lungs. If that means that nobody can be there, then you better carve out some solitude so you can let it rip and feel the, oh, like when I get done with one of these live streams, as a perfect example, like before, I'm always like real full of energy, like electricity almost. And it could go towards anxiety, like if you really let yourself get in your head. But mostly it's just excitement at getting to do something that feels like playing to me. Um, no worries about being late. We're going to keep going here for a little while with this Leo overview. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. Um, yeah, like the flow and the creative force of your inner child holds the map to what you came forward to contribute in your lifetime. Like, the reason that you needed to be here, the looking down from non-physical at what is going on the planet, you saw something that was like, I need to go and fill in this space. And so you got yourself a body and you're here now. And like, what is that? What do you want to make? And the first, well, like I said, we've already done some questions here, but coming into like the full moon contemplation, the fact that, we're in the part of the lunar cycle where the full moon is happening at the beginning of Leo season and the new moon is happening at the end of Leo season, because they're disjointed, right? This Aquarius full moon that we'll have for Leo season is the height of the Cancer new moon that we had at the end of Cancer season on July 17th. So coming into the full moon first, the question that I channeled, as far as asking myself and anybody else who finds it helpful, is, and I don't mean for this to be confronting, but it was a little confronting for me, because the answer is kind of, but the question is your status quo worth celebrating? And I have reasons, all kinds of reasons for why that's the question, and we can get into as much of that as we want. But is your status quo, the status quo of your current life experience, is it something that you feel like celebrating? Like, you're just jazzed and fucking amped that this is my life? Like, is that how you feel when you look around at your world? Is it like, I can't wait to celebrate this? Full moons are a height of celebration, a height of light, a height of nurturing and comfort and emotional well-being, and like rising all of our emotional well-being to the surface where we can get a really good look at it. And full moons can kind of go either way, depending on how full your cup is to begin with. And that's why I ask, is your status quo worth celebrating? And like I said, the answer for me was kinda. Like, there's a lot about my life that is beautiful, absolutely, like divinely blueprinted for this one. Like, I am already living so much of the life of my dreams. And there are some pieces that I'm like, I don't think I'm getting the return on my investment for like what I put into it and what I get out of it. Like, I don't feel like I'm getting a good deal on some of these recurring pieces of my status quo. I don't think I like that. I don't think it's like, in some cases, it's not even that I don't like it, it's just not as good as the stuff over here. So, like, I think no matter which it is, whether, your status quo, your current life is something that you look around at and you're like, I'd torch it all and just can start over, maybe, could be. The follow-up question to is your status quo worth celebrating is what are you willing to release? Like if your current status quo is not what you want it to be, no big deal. That's just information as far as how do you want to then Leo energy, Leo season. How do you want to create? What do you want? What do you want? And what are you willing to do to make it happen? And Leo energy, again, already knows the answers to these questions. And that full moon in Aquarius is very much about highlighting, okay, so then what is it that you need to let go of? And sometimes it's not anything so much as physical as like maybe a limiting belief that says like my parents would never approve if I blah 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 blah. Like if you believe that, then it doesn't matter how fun it is for your inner child. Like if you're holding yourself back with some kind of limitation, I mean, that limitation has got to go. Like the roof has to open up if you're going to let yourself like move into what it is that your inner child wants to do, the risk that your inner child is willing to take. If your inner adult, your like programmed adult self, which I don't think it's possible to have an adult self that's not programmed. That's the whole point of the inner child, is that that's the part of us that's not programmed. That's the part of us that still knows who we are. And then the inner adult has all of these reasons why we can't just be who we are. And again, none of it is right or wrong. It's all just information. It's all just good to know and have in your back pocket when it comes to like, okay, so if there's a piece that, to tie in Pluto and Capricorn just a teeny bit, Pluto in Capricorn is in its last 6 months at this time, last 6 months of a 15-year process, and it's getting ready to go into Aquarius in January of 2024 for a 20-year process. So Pluto is very slow moving, and we're in the tail end of Pluto in Capricorn, which has been asking us for a decade and a half, what structures in your life are stopping you from being your most empowered self? What structures are limiting you stepping into your power? And this Leo season in general is wanting your power, your creative life force energy to be at the center of what it is that you're doing with your life. Your inner child satisfaction at the center of what it is that you're doing with your entire life. And I would imagine that maybe there's a little bit of a correlation between like, is your status quo worth celebrating? If the answer is yes, like a wholehearted yes, I would imagine your inner child is already kind of pulling the levers to a huge extent, that you're already guided by your fun. And that's why your status quo is amazing and you're wanting to celebrate it. If the answer is no, I'll bet that a lot of the decisions are being left up to that programmed adult. And I don't think that that's abnormal at all. So it's, again, just information. And the Aquarius full moon, especially Aquarius being an air sign, expect some kind of like detached perspective, new information about your status quo. Like Leo energy cannot escape the fact that it is responsible for its own life. We are creators, like we are extensions of God. We are each creators of our own life experience. We have our life force energy, our spark, Aries, and we bring it into the physical, Leo. And that is what our life is. So Aquarius full moon, is your status quo worth celebrating? It's asking you, do you like the life you've created for yourself so far? And there is no shame in a yes, a no, or a kind of, like no matter where you're at along that journey, basically the cool thing about being in this reverse cycle where we're having this Aquarius full moon question come up first is that then we have the Leo new moon, and the Leo new moon wants to know, what do you want to create for the fun and satisfaction of your inner child? And I would imagine that, like, the child inside of us, like, unless we're so sleepy that we're ready to sleep, we're not turning down more fun. So even if you're like, yeah, my status quo is the shit and I love my life and I'm celebrating the hell out of it, I'll bet there is a way come that Leo new moon. What do you want to create for the fun and satisfaction of your inner child to be even more? You know, like, what would make it even better? How could you free yourself 1% more into being guided by your own fun rather than the programming that you received in your childhood? And, you know, the thing about the programming is that the people who taught us what they taught us, they were doing their best. And what they understood and what they had deemed to be the best was full of misunderstandings and misinterpretations that they had made as children based on what their teachers had said, their parents. And those parents and teachers did their best, but their best was full of misunderstandings and misinterpretations that they made as children. So the programming that we have, like, I see one of the pieces of, you know, celebration that we could potentially feel into around this Aquarius full moon and kind of take advantage of the emotional detachment that comes with Aquarius is like, you know, how well are you able to celebrate the conditioning that you did receive, the programming that you did receive? Like, is that something that you're able to celebrate? Because talk about a tall order, right? To like make peace with the things that people thought they needed to tell you and teach you and restrict you with, and the limitations and the structures that were put in place for your highest good, what they thought was your highest good. Like, you know, making peace with those limitations that were handed down to you, that you inherited when you got here, that takes a long time. And I don't think I'm even close to like near a peaceful place, judging by this Cancer new moon we just had. Holy shit. I'm still real angry for the most part about the way my childhood, some specific pieces unfolded. Like, I'm still very much in a processing kind of place. But at the same time, like, the Aquarius full moon, like that emotional detachment, when you stand back and when you look at the conditioning that you received, you know, Aquarius is an energy within all of us where we are able to spot the patterns of what's coming in the future. Like, you can see the future through Aquarius energy. Like, that's the whole point, is that you have this ability to predict into the future. And how are you doing that? You're playing out the pattern of, you know, you can see, I've seen this 100 times, 1,000 times, that like when this happens and then this person says this and then this person says this and then this happens and then this person gets involved and then it's like this. Like, you just know because you can see the pattern. Aquarius energy, that emotional detachment where you're on the outside kind of observing the bigger picture. We all have that. And in our childhoods, we were sponges for pattern recognition. And all of us got trained in certain patterns. And almost all, like kind of the whole point of human evolution, spiritual evolution for sure, almost all of those patterns that we absorbed like little baby sponges, innocent, precious sponges, we absorbed those patterns, and most of it was really painful. And now being governed by those patterns, the Aquarius shadow of being restricted still by our social conditioning, our social programming, that is still very painful. And, you know, I talked in the Leo full moon, yeah, back during Aquarius season, that like Leo and Aquarius, when they come together, you're stuck in this place of like, does it feel worse to express yourself and be rejected by other people? Or does it feel worse to stay in an acceptable space where other people can accept and approve of you, but then you're denying your own self-expression. Like, which one of those hurts worse? Would you rather be rejected or stifled? It's like shit sandwich or shit sandwich. Like, which one do you prefer? Well, I think I'll take that. Like, whichever one, like, everyone's going to have to make that decision, and even, you know, moment to moment, person to person, make that decision. Like, there are some people that I'm willing to be rejected by because I would rather express myself. There are other people that I would rather hold myself back and be accepted. Like, it's not right or wrong, it's just normal. So I think that is part of what we might get to see on this Aquarius full moon, is what are those structures and limitations that we are programmed with? What are the unique patterns that we were trained to spot? And then, you know, like, as best we possibly can, from that inner child creative, everything is a landscape and potential for creation kind of point of view, how do you take that pattern recognition system that you had installed in your being, that Aquarius programming in your childhood, how do you take that and predict the future, and then use your Leo energy to get involved? You know, like, we can all see our own version of the future. Every single one of us, even the people who say you're not futuristic, the future is not necessarily some 500 years from now ordeal. It's the next moment and the next moment and the next moment and the next moment. So, like, you could see a situation playing out where the future that you can see is going to happen in 30 seconds and you have to act right now. So again, it's like, we all have a sense for the future. We all have a sense for recognizing some certain set of pattern, and we all have Leo energy. We are all an extension of God. We are all the creator of our own reality. Therefore, we all have the capacity to get involved and to do what we can to intersect this future that we can see playing out. You know, like, it's an unfortunate way to have to be trained, you know, like, as far as kind of making peace with it is what it is. Like, it's a little bit sad for the human condition. We can kind of give everyone on the planet some compassion and some love for this one, that, like, you know, typically programming in general is traumatic. It's the act itself is a repression and a denial of the soul that came forward. Programming, by definition, is soul crushing. So we all got here and we all got our souls crushed. So that was step number one. And some of us had, I would say, probably like more fire energy, more earth energy, to be able to kind of like hold our own. Like, even under the crushing, we're still in there, you know? And then there's air energy and water energy, which is much more open to the influence and to be guided and to be taken in the direction, to flow in the direction of what's happening. And we're all some of all of it. So sometimes we're able to stand up to the crushing. Sometimes we're under the influence of those around us. Again, it's not right or wrong. It's just normal. But during Leo season, the winds of the universe, the cosmic forces, are at our backs to be able to express and create the world exactly the way we want it to be. If we see a pattern playing out that we say that's fucking unacceptable, then get involved. Speak up. Use your voice. Use your body. Use your emotion. Use every resource at your disposal. Leo energy is incredibly determined and therefore very resourceful. And that is because that when they set their sights on something that is worth it, when that Leo energy, when that inner child gets a hold of something that, like, it's obsessed with, that, like, it just can't get over, like, I need this thing, it will have the thing. You know, children are extremely persistent before the world beats it out of them. Before the world and the programming crushes the soul is persistent. It will be. It incarnated in a body. Like, it got itself a body. It was so determined to be here and to get to create its own world the way that it wanted to be. So as we have this full moon, and that one's on August 1st at 9 degrees of Aquarius, so the sun will also be at 9 degrees of Leo. So pretty early on in Leo season, we have this Aquarius full moon getting to highlight how celebratable is your status quo. You know, like, is it ridiculously amazing or is it ridiculously underwhelming? And that is a great barometer, I think, to how much your inner child is driving the bus and letting people on and off the bus, and how much your inner adult is driving the bus and letting people on and off the bus. You know, those are two very different sides of ourselves. We can be proper or we can be authentic, but often they don't usually look very similar. And so Leo season, like, taking on that radical responsibility that you are the creator of your life, you get to ask yourself, do I want to be proper or do I want to be authentic? Do I want to be approved or do I want to have fun? You know, there's lots and lots and lots of beautiful choices that we get to make when we're alive and when we're responsible for our reality. And Leo season is a great opportunity to kind of see where the fun takes you. I saw this recommendation as far as like kind of getting into your fun and you know, going in that direction. The first step was to make a list of 10 things that you think are fun, 10 things that you enjoy doing. And then the first day, carve out a little bit of time and do one of those things. And if when you're done doing the first thing, you're still in fun mode and you want to pick another thing on the list, then pick another thing on the list. And, you know, basically every day, if you can, this might be a fun intention for Leo season, just even for those 30 days, to like spend 5, 10, 15 minutes on your fun. And, you know, as you go, I would imagine like you'll be able to add a bunch more things to your list of like, what are the things that you enjoy? Like, how cool would it be to make a list of 10 at the beginning of Leo season? And like, that was kind of a stretch because I could barely come up with those last few. And then at the end of Leo season, you kept adding to it as you found all these fun things. And you have like 100 things that are fun for you that, like, when you're in the mood to have some fun, you look at that list and like a menu of life, you get to pick out exactly the level of fun, the type of fun that you're ready to have right here, right now. And so that is the deliberate, intentional part of Leo energy. Like, if you want something to exist in the physical, if you want a fun life, if you want a status quo that you want to celebrate, um, I think that requires some intentional effort of like setting your top values, whether that's fun or something close to that, you know, bliss, peace, whatever you want to be as your guidepost there. Fun is an easy one as far as your inner child is concerned. That's why I'm throwing that out there. But yeah, so, you know, what do you want to create for the fun and satisfaction of your inner child? And to really spend some time focusing on that for all of Leo season. But at the end, on August 16th, so about a week before Leo season's over, we have the new moon in Leo at 23 degrees. And that, again, that's where the sun and the moon are both going to be in Leo. That, you know, kind of the masculine and the feminine principles of our being are together in the sign of Leo, in the sign of our inner child and our self-expression. And we get to decide, what is it that we are ready to let go of? What is it that we are ready to take a risk on? And the beautiful thing with this combination and this concept of your inner child has the map. Like, your inner child, your intuition, your fire energy, the spark of your own fun, that is the guide, that is the map for you to follow along and be able to find your soul's like humanitarian purpose, like the grand reason you came, your mission on this planet. It's not going to be enacted through putting your nose to the grindstone and pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing yourself. Maybe there's a little bit of pushing yourself, but you're still based in fun. You're based in your this enjoyment of your soul, the enjoyment of your inner child, the way that you want to play, the things that feel like a game and fun and playful. Like me and making videos, talking and having conversations with people. These things are at the top of my list as far as what is fun for me. And so when I do things like make a video or make a live stream, at the beginning, I'm all keyed up. And at the end, I'm ready to take a nap. I'm like one of those kids that like plays hard until I like pass out and like am in a nap for 4 hours on the floor of my playroom. You know, like play until you pass out and then wake up and play some more. And is it fun for you? If yes, lean in. If not, you got to ask yourself, why are you doing it? And the answer to that is most likely in your Aquarius programming somewhere of like, this was the limitation that was put on you. This was the structure that you were taught. This is the set of values that you were taught. And all of this is also being so supported by the North Node being into Aries, where the North Node is our destiny. It's like we are headed in this Aryan direction for the next 18 months of wanting to get in touch with your true identity, the spark of your life force. So the Sun in Leo angling towards that North Node is really, I think, like gonna amplify Leo season even more to really bring our identity to the surface. Because at the end of the day, like this is the part that like I've tried to make this point 3 times and I'm just going to say it, like at the end of the day, your humanitarian purpose is lived out through your egoic identity. Like we have an ego for a reason. We have an inner child for a reason. We know how to play and delight and satisfy ourselves for a reason. We have pleasure for a reason. And it's the map. It's the way you get there. It's the way, like, there's a reason that we don't have trouble procreating on this planet typically. We're kind of getting into it in an age where, yeah, people just don't really want to. But for the longest time, you know, we populated the earth because sex is one of the most pleasurable things humans can do. And it's like when it's pleasurable, you're not going to avoid it. So, how does the universe get us to live our humanitarian purpose? They base it on this track of pleasure. And so, this beautiful Leo season that we are just getting into, I'm so excited for all of us to kind of kick off this Aries North Node chapter with this Leo energy. And I'm also going to include here a chapter for the Venus retrograde that we have coming up the same day that the sun is going to move into Aries. So the sun will be at 0 degrees Aries. My apologies, Leo. July 22nd, the sun is moving into 0 degrees of Leo. And that same day at 28 degrees of Leo, we have Venus stationing retrograde. So for a couple days, Venus is pretty still on 28 degrees there at the end of Leo, and then we'll go all the way back to 12 degrees. So that retrograde lasts about 6 weeks from July 22nd through September 3rd. Venus will be moving backwards in Leo. And then on September 3rd is when Venus stations direct, and it will go all the way until October 9th. So another month of then Venus moving forward in Leo. So total, we have Venus in Leo for about 4 months. And that is significant. I mean, every time a planet that's normally going to spend a month in a sign, it ends up in a sign for 4 months, like that's telling you something. And it's so interesting that we have Venus like going in this retrograde, this extended period of fire energy for Venus, again at the same exact time that we have the North Node moving into a fire sign. So it feels to me like there is absolutely like a windshield wiper kind of effect happening with that Venus retrograde, where we're able to kind of look even more deeply at the programming that we were given, the value system that we were given ourselves, like from whoever it was that influenced us in early childhood, and that we get to reinvent that value system so that it's ours, so that it matches our divine identity, our divine ego. You know, not the super ego, the part of us that can connect with the all, but our divine ego, the part of us that knows we get to have whatever we want, that we are an extension of God and I'm the creator of my life and I get to have it however I want. So that part of us that exists, that fights for our fun, that fights for our pleasure, that is insistent on doing it our own way. Again, like, how does the universe ensure that we are going to live out our humanitarian contribution? They gave us an ego to make sure that we would have enough of a sense of self to fight for what we knew was best for us. So again, I think this is so beautiful that this Venus retrograde period is happening in a fire sign at the same time that we have the fire sign North Node kicking off. So there's that one. And same as the sun, at the end of Leo season, we have the sun making that trine, that supportive aspect, sending solar energy back to that Leo, or back to that Aries North Node. We also then have Venus, which Venus is already in that trine right now. Venus at 28 degrees and the North Node of at 29 degrees Aries. So they're already in a trine. So like kind of at the very beginning when Venus stations retrograde, it's doing so with that support from the Aries North Node, that divine cosmic force that wants your true identity, that wants your divine ego to exist in full force, because that's how your mission is actually going to get carried out. So it's really important that your ego be whole and intact. And this Venus in aspect at the beginning of its retrograde is a beautiful way to kind of kickstart that. And then we have the sun's aspect coming through in like a month later than that. And then right before Venus is done in Leo, when it gets back to the end of the Leo after its retrograde, it'll do it again. It'll make another supportive aspect with the North Node. And so I feel, and that'll be on October 2nd. So total, Venus is in Leo from June 5th to October 9th. But really, July 22nd and October 2nd, those are the days where Venus is making that aspect with the North Node. So there's something of a turning point where, again, we're being encouraged to release anything out of our status quo that is not there because our inner child is choosing it, and fully expect that when Venus stations direct September 3rd, that is going to be a force moving in a positive direction of refilling that space. And especially leading up to October 2nd, when Venus is trining the North Node, same thing. Like there is something coming to fill the space that is going to light up your inner child so much more than anything that's kind of clogging up your status quo at this time. And that is the gist of Leo season, these 30 days of the sun moving through Leo. In general, I'll go here with just some kind of bouncing back and forth with Leo and Aquarius energy. When we have the sun in Leo, the earth is always in Aquarius. So the sun automatically activates both of the sister signs that it's touching. And so Leo is ruled by the sun, Aquarius is ruled by Saturn. Leo is about shining our light, Aquarius is about boundaries. Are the boundaries holding you back even real? Are they real? And that is one that is worth deep contemplation. And I'm going to tell you just a teeny story about like one of the limitations that was holding me back for so long, my entire life up until within the last month or two, was I am bad, knowing, believing for a fact that I am bad. And that was part of my programming. I got taught that when I was little, that I was bad and that I was a bad influence and that I had bad impulses and that I had bad choices and that made me a bad person and that I needed to keep my bad away from my brother's good. And so learning that at such a young age, I've believed it my entire life. And then when I saw, like I've talked on the channel, if you caught it, like I had multiple experiences kind of coming up out of my shadow at the tail end of the Scorpio South Node, a deep karmic purge of getting to see those experiences in a new light, where I saw what I did and I saw how my mom, mostly, my dad a little bit, reacted to what I was doing, and that they came to those conclusions that I was bad. And as I looked at the behavior and then I looked at the reactions, I'm like, they were wrong. That behavior doesn't make me bad. You know, they misunderstood the behavior that I was exhibiting compared to what they expected from me. And because I wasn't doing what they expected, they told me I was bad, but they just didn't understand. They had a misperception. And because of that, they gave me this limitation of I'm bad. And so are the boundaries holding you back even real? When you look at them from your own leading edge perspective of the divine being that you are, the divine, valuable, important being that you are, do you agree? Do you agree with that those boundaries should stand? Because as soon as I could see that that's why they thought I was bad, it like it doesn't evaporate. I still notice the remnants and like all the habits that I have that came out of that belief, and I'm like unpacking those one at a time. But the belief itself has shifted. That like it's not that I think I'm good, I just think that those things don't exist. I don't think that our behavior can ever make us bad. I think Creator loves us no matter what. I think that we are love, that we don't have to earn it, our behavior's not tied to that, that like it's a faulty understanding of how our beingness even works. So the underlying belief, the boundary that's holding you back, is it real? Do you agree that it should stand? Leo is our authentic self-expression, and Aquarius is our social conditioning. And there's a quote that I have always loved and that I've been particularly talented at, if I do say so myself, is to learn the rules so that you can break them like an artist. And I highly believe in that, and that's where I think our social conditioning is not by accident. Like, I think to some extent, if we completely throw away the rule book of our social conditioning, the chances of us being able to, it sounds really weird, to be able to penetrate the collective with our mutation, the chances of us being able to do that drop dramatically. If you're just completely over here being completely eccentric and not at all participating with society, then the chances of your individuality making any kind of direct impact on the collective are basically zero. So to some extent, there does need to be some balance if you want, like, if you want there to be an impact, if you want people to listen, if you want them to be affected by what it is that you're doing, there has to be some kind of a match between what it is that you're offering and what people are able and willing and wanting to hear. So that's not to say that that's how you should box yourself in, but you can learn the rules so that you can break them like an artist. Learn where, there's a scene in Hunger Games where, or just a concept in Hunger Games, where there's an electrified fence around District 12, around all the districts. And the idea is that this fence is electrified and it's got all of these different things, and like you're not allowed to go beyond there. And they told them, like, it's electrified. There's signs and it says stay away, whatever. But if you walk up close enough to the fence, you can hear that it's not actually electrified. And so, like, a couple of the characters are like going through the fence to get to the forest beyond, and then like coming back through the fence and like going through and like just completely disrespecting this boundary because it's not real. Eventually they do electrify the fence, and then yeah, that's a real boundary. So you do have to pay attention. But if you really look, there are so many rules in society where nobody's guarding the fence. Just jump over it. Nobody's going to know. I'm a bad influence. You see, my parents were kind of right, I think. Leo is fire energy and Aquarius is air energy. Fire being our ego, air being our super ego, meaning our ability to connect with the oneness that is the all. Leo and Aquarius both are fixed energy, meaning that change is not necessarily something that comes super naturally to them. But at the same time, like I said, like Aquarius has that ability to see the future, which is mostly pattern recognition and understanding how one variable affects another variable. But Leo energy is definitely really a lot better with change, that spark, the inner child that just wants to play. And if it's fun, you're going for it. And at that point, change isn't scary because you're chasing after a fun thing. You're not thinking about what you're leaving behind or what you're risking necessarily. You're locked inside your ego of, I want this, and therefore I'm going to reach for it. Leo energy is where we are elevating ourselves, And Aquarius energy is where we're elevating humanity. And I personally believe you can't do one without the other. That, you know, you can't only elevate yourself, you can't only elevate humanity. Like, they kind of work in tandem with each other. Leo is doing and Aquarius is observing. Leo is courage and Aquarius is detachment. Leo is having authority and Aquarius is being under authority. And of those, both of them, I ask the same question. Leo having authority of who? Who do you have authority over? That's a real question to give some pondering to. Hopefully, of yourself. Hopefully. And, you know, other than that, like, whatever you've signed up for, like whatever jobs of authority you've taken on is your responsibility, stepping full force into embodying that authority. Like, it's my job to, that's my function of my job, is to be the one that says yes or no, that makes those decisions. That's my job. That's my responsibility. I'm responsible for the decision because I'm responsible for the outcome. That's the weight that I've signed up for. So that's the authority that I embody. So that's a beautiful opportunity for Leo season, is to more embody the authority that you do have, to assert your will in those situations more unapologetically. And Aquarius energy being under authority of who? Because again, if we're living according to our programming, our, you know, childhood conditioning, you think about that. I mean, if only a month or two ago I realized I'm not bad, that means that as a 35-year-old person on this planet, I am still living under the authority of what my parents said was true. They said I was bad, and I was holding myself within that limitation this entire time. So just because you turn 18, just because you don't live with your parents anymore or your teachers or whatever, like, just because they're not physically present doesn't mean that they're not still the authority figure guiding your life. And again, I go back to that Aquarius full moon question of, is your status quo worth celebrating? Because if there's somebody who's not you being the authority of your life, chances are the status quo probably sucks. But you taking over that position of authority over your own life gives you a better chance, at least, for making the choice of, I want a life that I want to live, you know, that feels good to me and my soul and my desires. Leo is our heart's desire, and Aquarius is good of humanity. So a bigger concern than just our individual heart. But again, they're linked. It's like, if you want to do good for humanity, find your inner child and follow them wherever they want to go. And last but not least, a thought to leave you with for Leo season is that unfamiliar situations are what test strength and ingenuity. Unfamiliar situations test strength and ingenuity. And I say that because Leo is at its core creative energy. It wants to create. And so, in order to do that, there has to be a blank slate. In order to truly invoke your creative energy, you cannot follow a recipe that's already been outlined for you. So, finding yourself in unfamiliar situations this Leo season may not be totally unexpected. Like, that could absolutely be part of what's coming for us for Leo season. But at the same time, like, that is what gives you the opportunity to see just how strong you really are, just how much of a genius you really are. You know, for you to think on your feet and to be able to come up with a really good answer to something that you've never even faced before. And that is where confidence comes from. That's where self-esteem comes from, is by doing something that you hadn't done before and having a positive outcome, possibly even getting a positive response. Those effects of the positive outcome, the positive response, that builds up self-confidence. And so I think there's a lot of people who kind of get it backwards sometimes, where, like, once I feel confident enough, then I will go out and I'll express myself and I'll do the thing. And it's like, that never comes. Like, that doesn't happen, because you get confidence from going. You get confidence from doing the thing. So you have to do the thing while you're not confident, and then you get a little drop of confidence in your bucket. And then the next time it's not quite so hard because now you have a little bit of confidence. And the next time maybe you get another drop of confidence in your bucket. And sometimes you try and it like dumps out all of your confidence that you've built up so far because it didn't go so well. And that's the part that is the risk. That's the part of Leo energy where, you know, what do you want and what are you willing to risk to make it happen? Like, we can't chase our heart's desires and live in total safety at the same time. It just doesn't work like that. There's inherent risk with creating something that hasn't ever existed before. We can't truly predict the future, and Leo knows that. Aquarius is spotting patterns and, you know, making really good guesses at what the future is going to be. Like, they're often very accurate. That part of us is very accurate, but that is only, it's sad. It's only, that's what will happen if the past is allowed to repeat itself. And you know who stops the past from repeating itself? You do. Create something different, interfere, get involved, participate, and make it different, right? So the future can be whatever we want it to be. And that's where Leo energy knows that you can't see the future, you can only create the future. And Aquarius, the future that they're seeing is just what the past is going to create if they don't personally make it different. And so I think all of us have something inside of us that we can see on the planet right now that we personally wish was different. So Leo season is asking, how are you going to get yourself out there? What are you going to risk? What are you going to let go of to allow more of your inner child's highest satisfaction and delight to come into this world? I am going to leave us with a couple of higher self oracle cards. That one already wants out. Higher self oracle cards. What guidance would be helpful for Leo season? What can we keep at the front of our mind to give us courage, to help our true self emerge? That one. One more. What do we want to keep in mind for Leo season? Oh, this one. Yep. Okay. All right, this one was first. Ooh, I love it. Dreams. Check it out. She's sassy. Yeah, what are you dreaming about? What do you want? What is your heart's desire? You can have it. You got to make it happen, but you can totally have it. Oh, I love that. What's next? You can't make this up. Courage with the lion. With the lion. Oh, courage. Yeah. Yeah, you're going to need your courage close by to get through Leo season. Those unfamiliar situations, the, you know, would you rather be rejected or would you rather be, you know, self-expressed? Or would you rather be rejected or would you rather be stifled? And balance. I think that is a beautiful note to end on as well, where, yeah, I don't think, like, it even has like the yin and the yang. The yin and the yang. Like, we are all 12 of the Zodiac archetypes, and we are not ever only one of them. And Leo season, though it may be asking us to lean into our ego, our fire, our instincts, the North Node's asking very similar things of us. Like, just because those things are going on does not mean that we're like throwing the rest of everything in the fire and like it no longer exists, right? Like, all of the rest of that is still there. So I think it's not that we're meant to even necessarily let go of our Aquarius programming and conditioning all at once, but like really celebrate that conditioning. And what is it? What is it that you received that you are here to like dismantle that conditioning for yourself and for others? You know, like, one of the things that I am realizing as I deconstruct, which is a cult term, which I kind of feel like, but like decondition, same idea. The more I deconstruct and decondition my childhood, I realized like I was essentially raised in the cult of hard work, where the value system was productivity and output, and that was it. That was like the only way to know if you were good or bad. And because of that, I spent basically my whole childhood, my teens and my 20s as a workaholic, and now as a recovering workaholic, and as a burnout warrior. I heard that term the other day, like someone who fell off the cliff multiple times of like just running myself completely into poor health. Did that multiple times in my late 20s. And that, all of that was born out of I'm bad. And my parents taught me that when I was like 2 years old, started out, and just kept catching me doing bad stuff and just kept telling me how bad I am. And so all the while, they're also telling me hard work, hard work, hard work, hard work, work ethic, work ethic, work ethic, work ethic. Like these are the things that were talked about in my household when there was things talked about in my household. Most of the time they were just gone working. So that pretty much spoke for itself. But all of me adopting this programming of hard work was kind of fueled by this belief of I'm bad. And so all of it together turned me into this machine of trying to earn back my worthiness, trying to earn my redemption, and working and working and working and working to try to make up for how bad I am. And unraveling all of this has been, like, I would go so far as to say it saved my life, to like learn that you don't have to earn your worth. You're worthy because you exist. And you're not bad because you have a body and you like pleasure. Like that doesn't make you bad. Like all of these things, learning them literally saved my life. And now I have a platform called Owning Authenticity and other things that I'm doing that is very much centered from this guiding principle of I don't have to earn redemption, and neither do you. Neither do you. And it drives me. These things that I have untangled within my own conditioning that have let me live on this planet as a more free being, as a more soul-oriented being, like every single one of those things, like I cannot help but turn around and try to free anybody else who will listen, that like you don't need to be redeemed because you were never wrong in the first place. So like passion and joy, and the work itself being energizing. And at that point, my status quo, right? Like I said, it's kind of worth celebrating. Like there's a lot that I could easily celebrate. And that might be a fun focus wheel for the Aquarius full moon, is like the parts of my life I want to celebrate. And then, yeah, like what is it going on in your life that's like already really working for you? And then maybe a much smaller focus wheel of like, what am I ready to release to make more space for this kind of stuff, right? That might be kind of fun. But anyways, the things that we were gifted, I'm going to use that word, the things we were gifted in our programming are basically the blueprint of, what kind of a path are you trying to carve out here, and why? Like I signed up to receive this conditioning so that I could later unravel it. I could solve that Rubik's Cube, and then I could create content and I could share my voice and my story and my experiences about how we can all be going in that direction. We can all be unpacking and unraveling our conditioning. We can all ask, are these boundaries holding us back even real? And we can all set ourselves free whenever we're ready. Freedom can be kind of scary. It's kind of daunting. I mean, the structure provides a safety, provides like a safety net of like, I may not be happy, but at least I'm not ostracized from society. And at a certain point, I mean, being stifled becomes more painful than being rejected. So when you get to that tipping point, you can set yourself free. That is all I have for this Leo season contemplation. We have, leaving us with these, clearly not that one's good enough. It was dreams. But courage and balance, right? Like really asking ourselves, what do we want? And what are we willing to give up to get ourselves there? What do we need to keep? Because it matters too, right? There's lots of things that matter beyond our heart's desire, but our heart's desire, if all that's holding us back is not having the courage to chase it, then this Leo season is like, hey, what's up? Hey, what's up? I got a little extra courage for you. And I'm excited to see what you do with it, even if it's just tuck it in your back pocket for later, right? We have Venus working for many more months in Leo territory and the North Node working in fire territory for the next 18 months. So depending on where we are in our journey, we can take this entire Leo season as information about what is it that we want to create in our lives and what are we willing to personally do to make that happen for ourselves. I am going to hang out for just a second and see if I want to comment on the chat. Leo in my 12th house natally, and I'm having an inner war with what I believe versus what I feel. Oh, dude, I get that. I totally get that. And that is essentially Leo and Aquarius, right? Like the structure of belief, Aquarius, the programmed belief. And I would say, especially during Leo season, to trust how you feel. And you don't have to just jump right into the fire making decisions based on how you feel. You can use how you feel to guide you to question the things that are opposite of that. Like, here I am and my heart is pointing me this way, but this belief says I have to go this way. So let me get curious about what your motive is. Why is it that you think I need to go that way? Is it so you'll stay comfortable? Is it so society will accept me? Well, those things are lower values on my list these days than my fun, my satisfaction, all of that. So I think I'm going to use my courage and I'm going to go in this direction of what my heart desires. And I hope you can understand, but either way, I wish you well. Okay, you can follow me if you want, but you go wherever you need to go. Yeah, the feeling versus believing, like those beliefs were built through programming. And the good news about that to keep in mind is that anything that was programmed can be reprogrammed. It just takes a little bit of intentional effort over a little bit of an extended period of time, right? They say it takes 21 days to build a habit. And I can say that yes, within a few weeks, you will absolutely have momentum going. And I can also say that I just celebrated my 7-year anniversary of daily self-care, and I feel like the momentum is still picking up speed. So the better it gets, the better it gets, the better it gets, the better it gets, the better it gets. Like, it can always get better. Your inner child is not going to be turning down advancements in its fun. So yeah, you can always lean into a little bit better. Oh, thank you. I love your hair. I'm thinking about changing my hair color, but Venus is, well, retrograde. Dude, like, I'm a big believer in not guiding your life by, oh, it's retrograde, so I can't do this, or, oh, it's like, this opposition, so I can't do this. Like, I don't personally live like that. I also would say though, like, feel into your feeling. And if what lights you up, if what delights your inner child is dyeing your hair and going to the salon or getting a box and doing it at home or whatever, like, if that's what's going to be fun for you, trust it. And if it turns out that it doesn't look exactly like what you saw or what you saw in your head, what you thought you were creating when you took this risk and like did the thing, I also think Venus retrograde is going to be asking us some really potent questions about our standards of beauty. Like, there's a lot out there in our society right now that is extremely vanity centric, that has like such a strict idea of like what is beauty. And I'm here to tell you that beauty is not what you look like on the outside. That's my own personal belief, and I am a huge believer. This is how I judge people, how I discriminate against people, is like, I'm looking for the light in your eyes. Is it there? Or does it look like your fire is mostly ashes and hasn't been tended to in a long time? Like, do you look miserable? Do you look like being alive is hard for you? Like, I've been there. I totally get it. It has nothing to do with age, and it has nothing to do with what you look like. It has everything to do with how you feel and how often your inner child is driving your bus. Leo in my 10th, along with my North Node and Sun. Whoa, letting myself shine is an everyday learning experience. Dude, I get it. I totally get that. But how interesting. I mean, we have, right, the sun going into Leo, and the North Node in Aries means that like it's going to be trining your North Node in Leo at some point. So yeah, like definitely leaning into what is fun for your inner child. And you know, we don't have to move any faster. These are fixed energies. We don't have to move any faster than what we really want to. And a great thing to do if we're really not ready to move forward in action is to spend that time being curious about what is holding us back, and to be curious down into the programming that says you're not allowed to shine, or the programming that says like if people see you, they're going to be mean to you, right? Like that was a big part of mine with, you know, kind of leaning into my own Leo energy and overcoming this belief of I'm bad, is my parents saw me, and they saw me more often and more regularly than anybody else, and like they came to the conclusion within a couple years of me being alive that I'm bad. And I took that with me as far as like, if anybody really gets to know me, if anybody really sees who I am, they're going to see that I'm a bad one. And you know, it's really hard to let yourself be seen if you're thinking that if they see it, they're just going to hate what they see or whatever, be triggered by what they see, be offended by what they see. Like there's deep programming, I feel like, that holds us back, and we get to ask ourselves if it's even real. You know, and so while we're exploring those boundaries and the realness of them, like, is the electric fence electrified? Can you just hop right over it? Or is it on? Is it real? You know, like there are certain laws in this world that I would not break, and there are certain moral codes in this world that I would not break. There are other laws, though, that I look at and I'm like, that is the most arbitrary thing, and there's no way I'm letting that box me in. You know, like I'll deal with the consequences if and when that bridge gets here. But in the meantime, it doesn't look like anybody's guarding this fence. So I'm just gonna go about my play and, you know, hope for the best in a very childlike, optimistic way. But yeah, I think there's a beautiful opportunity for this Leo season to shine our light in new and creative ways, and to be curious about the programming that sets us up to do that really well and naturally. That may be programming from your childhood too. I mean, if you had a parent who was really encouraging about a particular thing, then that is potentially something that you're really gifted at expressing. Like I think about, you know, my mom when I was little, she told me all the time. I mean, she had very high standards for what my grades were supposed to be. But I mostly met them, and she told me the whole while, like, you're so smart, you're so intelligent, you can do whatever you want, like you can just put your mind to anything, like you're so smart, you're so intelligent. Like she told me that over and 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 over. She also told me I was bad many, many times, but it's like there are pieces of me where I've always had a real natural confidence and ease with my intelligence. Like there's not really ever been a situation in my life where I came up against something and threw my hands up because, well, I can't learn this. Like I can learn anything I want. And she taught me that, you know, and that programming, what a gift. What a blessing to like program me with that belief about myself, whether it's true or not. I believed it, and it's definitely been an engine to push me into a lot of really cool things in my life. At the same time, she gave me the engine of I'm bad, and that pushed me into some other things in my life. So like there's pieces of our conditioning that set us up to succeed, and there's pieces of our conditioning that set us up to fail. And our job as the creator of our reality is to reprogram what needs reprogrammed. And this Leo season I see as a beautiful opportunity to do that. So I do want, before I sign off, I do want to reiterate that this is a new era of the Friday live streams, where I am no longer doing 2 live streams per month, but only 1. So for the foreseeable future, I will come on at the beginning of each season, each new season. So we did Leo season today. I'll be back right before Virgo season starts to do Virgo season and the lunar cycles that are a part of that. So I'll be back next month to do Virgo season. And then also I have an announcement that I am retiring my Patreon. So I've had a Patreon for about 18 months where I've done a sacred circle once a month on the fourth Tuesday. And this coming fourth Tuesday of July 25th at 11 a.m. Central Time will be the final sacred circle of this era of sacred circles. That's not to say that I may not restart this in the future, but at this time, it's one of those things where it's not that I don't like it at all, but out of all the list of fun things that I have access to doing, that is one of the lower items. And that's not anything bad about the sacred circle. It says something about how awesome those things are at the top of the list. So it is time for me to shut that down. I will be there though on Tuesday to do one more of those. If you're in the Patreon, would love to see you there. Otherwise, I will no longer be hosting them. So anybody who has been subscribed to the Patreon, I will cancel the Patreon account, which should automatically shut down your membership. And so you shouldn't get charged further after that, which I'll be doing right after we have the last Sacred Circle next week. So those two announcements, I feel like for me personally, this is part of the answer to that question of how much do you want to celebrate your status quo, and which pieces are truly life-giving, like which pieces have life in them that are really calling to you, and which pieces have played their part and run their course and aren't as alive for you anymore. And so this live stream series, cutting that down to once a month and eliminating the sacred circle, I expect that reclaiming the energy out of those two things, like eliminating one live stream a month and eliminating the sacred circle once a month, absorbing that energy back into what I am creating. So yeah, I feel really good about that, and simplifying and guiding as much of my energy in the direction of what brings me the greatest joy in the most regularity. So that's really the best we could do, right? As we create our lives. So I hope you understand. I appreciate you for listening. If you did like the video, please give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing to the channel, where I do have lots of videos coming out regularly, always something a little bit different. And leave a comment down below if you're called to. I would love to hear what your favorite part was. If you have any questions for Virgo season, feel free to shoot those my way. I'll include them on the next live stream. And until next time, I do hope you take such good care of yourselves, and so will I. Alrighty, bye-bye. Okay, bye-bye.